Hello, welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boeing Company and Elon Musk. It is nearly Christmas time, very close, but I could not wait. I wanted to get this episode out as soon as possible, so been grafting all day, putting this together. It's in regards to the event we had on the 18th, all about all the information that we have discovered from that event. So let's get going, guys, and have a quick look. So, 18th of December, my honest thoughts and predictions. It was an amazing event. I really enjoyed covering it with you guys and girls, and just in general, lots and lots of little snippets of information that are going to be very, very useful for future episodes on this channel. So here's the great man himself. He was in fine form. Let's have a look what was covered. So, the event took place at the test tunnel in Hawthorne, California. How do I summarize that event? Fantastic. Excellent. Lots and lots of very interesting things were mentioned in terms of sort of the guidance wheels or the alignment wheels, in terms of the tunnels, in terms of what they're going to do with the actual tunnel system, in terms of expand it just beyond public transport. A lot of good things came out of this event. The vision for the company has clearly evolved since the last talk. Not a huge evolution, but there's certainly little bits of the plan that have changed. Certainly, the actual vehicle might have changed very slightly, but it is basically the same as the pods that we have seen in the original drawings. Was phenomenal to hear Elon Musk talk with such passion about his vision for the Boeing Company. He was so passionate about this project. It's clear that he wants to get more involved here. And clearly he now believes 100% in the vision for the company. They have gone through all the ideas for this system, and what has come out the other end is going to be extremely beneficial for the people in LA and hopefully the rest of the world. However, the event didn't run smoothly. Issues with the track shelves and guide wheels. There was some kind of issue with the actual concrete. It was not level. It was certainly off level. Something wasn't right. The vehicles were bouncing up and down. I believe the horizontal shelving as well might have been slightly out, which was causing issues with the alignment wheels. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't get to go in the Model X and test out the tunnel, which is a bit annoying, but you know, what can you do? They've got to do better. Basic things like leveling out concrete and ensuring that, you know, you float that concrete correctly and check the levels against your datum. That is basic stuff, and you've got to make sure you get it right. It's clearly a bit of a rush job. Unfortunately, that it does feel like they kind of rushed this event to make sure they got it done before the end of the year, and that is what's caused the problems. So let's all have a look at the slides and the key statements made by Elon Musk. It was a slightly bumpy ride. It's a little rough around the edges. Aim to be as smooth as glass. I've mentioned this in a previous episode. If they can smooth out and grind that concrete down to a perfectly smooth glass-like surface, that is going to help in terms of actual rolling resistance and the efficiency of the system. The fastest we've taken a car through the tunnel is 110 miles an hour. It's a little scary, and that's because the actual shelving wasn't very level at all. It was quite uneven in some areas, and that is why the vehicle is struggling to go above 110 miles an hour. I mean, this was one of his best quotes, actually, Elon Musk. I mean, traffic is soul-destroying. It's like acid on the soul. It's horrible, and it must go away. So I think finally, so much passion in his voice when he said this. There is something that I think can solve the goddamn traffic problem. And I hope for goddamn sake, it is a solution for this traffic problem. You will not hear, see, or feel the tunnels being created. And he quoted a neighbour who lives next to where the shaft was near the end of 120th Street, and basically he was watching TV and didn't really even hear the TBM come through the shaft. Why tunnels? So these are slides from the actual event. It's some good reasons. Weatherproof. You can't see, hear or feel. They're unlike freeways. They do not divide communities. He did mention that quite, he elaborated on quite a lot, that he doesn't want to divide communities. He doesn't want to cause problems. He doesn't want to cause traffic jams because of street closures. He also mentioned the kind of the speed of existing machines and the cost. The LA subway extension cost $2 billion for 2.5 miles. The fastest tunnel boring machine in the world right now is 14 times slower than a snail, which is pretty pathetic when you really think about it. And nothing has happened in the tunneling world for the last 40, 50 years. Only very minor improvements, so that's disappointing. We're going to have like this tunneling machine that can do 1 mile a week. So what a great thing for him to say, because now we have a benchmark for Proof Rock in terms of what it needs to achieve. It's great to see a firm target being set. That is very achievable. When I worked it out, it was 0.006 miles per hour with the perfect machine, and I imagine the perfect geology as well to get that kind of speed, or reasonable geology. I mean, if they have reasonable geology, they should be able to achieve that. It doesn't have to be quite perfect. So we looked at this snail enclosure. This is Gary the 6th. It turns out snails don't actually live that long, so they've obviously been dying and they've been replacing him. So we don't really know which snail is in which picture really, but what can you do, eh? Hopefully maybe he's a cousin or you know, a sibling of the original Gary, who knows. He's talking about increasing the speed of TBMs, continuous dirt removal, simultaneous mining and installation, modified cutter design. I've not heard them mention that before. Obviously, that's a key thing, modifying the cutter or the actual front of the machine. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. In any given hour of tunnelling, only about 10 minutes of the hour is spent actually digging, then the other 50 minutes are spent erecting the tunnel reinforcements, laying down tracks, doing logistics and a bunch of other stuff. So 5/6 of the time is basically spent not building anything. So what a waste, really, when you think about it. So you only do 10 minutes of work every hour. That is not good enough. They need to at least quadruple that. At least. Maybe get it up to the full, like, you know, 55 minutes is spent digging. So just automating the segment placement and solving the logistic issues will give you a 5-fold increase in tunneling speed, and a lot of these things, when you boil it down, it's not actually that hard to do. It was so interesting to hear him say that. It's like, look, why has no one ever tried this? It's clearly this is the answer to increasing the speed, but we keep doing the same old things. And that's the tunneling industry. It's stuck in its ways, and it doesn't really need or want to progress or move forward, which is a great shame, because maybe as a result of the Boring Company, some companies are going to go out of business. So the Boring Company has modified the cutter design. The dirt removal is continuous thanks to 2 lanes. So remember in my previous video I mentioned this narrow gauge railway and having 2 lanes. It'll be interesting to see the actual gauge of railway they use to fit in that tunnel, because obviously once you've built the tunnel, it's around 12.5 foot internal diameter. All changes add up to a 15x speed improvement, which is phenomenal. Hopefully they can achieve that. Elon Musk, we are building the machine that can do that right now. So he is referring to Stomp. He's saying that is under construction. The actual gantry for that machine, the frame, is being built. It's being put together. It's obviously, maybe it's being tested, possibly getting close to being tested. But all the components that are coming together for Stomp. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly that machine gets into action. You're talking about decreasing cost, on-site integration, reduce, standardize the tunnel diameter. So obviously they intend to use the same tunnel diameter for all their projects, even if necessarily some of that space is going to be wasted, but it's better to do it like that, to keep it the same size and use the same tunnel boring machines. They plan to sell the bricks. The goal is exponential cost improvements. Boring Company plans to build the tunnel reinforcing segments on site using mostly dirt from the tunnel. good to hear him say that. It is, however, an idea that has been put into practice before. It has been done before, as during the construction of the Gotthard Base Tunnel, that's in Switzerland, the spoil excavated contained large amounts of dolomite and granite gneiss. And this is absolutely fantastic aggregate for use in the concrete. Obviously, most of the concrete is the actual rocks and stones that you add in. Then obviously you've got sand and cement and a tiny amount of water and maybe some additives. But the vast majority of it, 70%, is the actual coarse aggregate. Quite a lot of these things are quite elementary, but are not done. Again, tunneling industry does not want to change. It wants to keep doing the same old thing. Here was an interesting, he was talking about the bricks, and he said something very, very interesting. Indeed, we kind of already know this about the cost, 10 cents, and the fact that they're going to be free for affordable housing projects. But then, he kind of hit us with a few facts that I wasn't aware of. So, 15% of tunneling cost is removing the dirt. Depending on how many bricks they sell, i.e. the boring company, it may pay for the tunnel itself. Now, that is the first time he's mentioned that. It does kind of, when you look at the numbers in terms of how many bricks they could produce, you know, per week, per day, it could be possible, maybe, but it seems a bit unbelievable to me. It is possible if they can sell over 50 million bricks at 10 cents every week, yeah? I am skeptical that they can do that. It's going to be very difficult to sell that many bricks consistently. And obviously, it's going to be difficult for them to continually build the bricks all the time and find places to store it and obviously sell it in you know, high volume every day. So maybe they can do it, maybe they can't, but I'm a little bit skeptical about that. Elon Musk, we're going to do all sorts of brick kits. So he's talking about making maybe brick versions of the Empire State Building, the Pyramid of Giza, maybe, I don't know, some kind of mountains, or you could build all sorts of things from it, models. Maybe you could build, you know, a British kind of telephone booth. Who knows? All these things Elon Musk is going to try and sell and obviously make a bit of profit out of that. Now we're going into details about the actual machines. Godot, Line Storm, and Proof Rock. He was talking about obviously using Line Storm very soon. Boring Company plan to start drilling very soon using the Line Storm TBM. Now, what project is that going to be? Obviously, a new project is going to start in 2019, in the first sort of 6 months of the year. So, is that going to be, Chicago? Is it going to be the Dugout Loop in LA? It could be both. Who knows? They've only got one machine though, so they'd have to maybe prioritize one project. It's probably going to be, if I was going to hazard a guess, I'd probably say it's going to be the Chicago project. But we'll have to see. Parts are starting to arrive for Proof Rock, so they're obviously quite far. They're obviously quite far into the design of that particular machine, which is very interesting. I didn't realise they were so far ahead of the actual design of that machine. I thought they were still kind of waiting for what they could do with Line Storm and then doing the design with Proof Rock. But obviously, they're going to start putting it together in 2019. It might even be ready for early 2020 if we're lucky, which is a phenomenal thing to hear. The Hawthorne Test Tunnel, Elon Musk, I think this is a very important proof of concept for the technology. It definitely is. It allows you to prove all your theories actually, you know, at the coalface, actually use the actual technology that they've developed and see if it works in an actual physical environment. And obviously, it has worked because the tunneling cost was less than 10 million for 1.14 miles, which is pretty damn good. They also announced these new products that they're going to hopefully try and build for local authorities. So we've got the transport tunnel, which we already know about, but these utility tunnels, which look excellent. What an excellent idea. You could put fibre optics in there. You could obviously put actual high pressure water mains, maybe even electrical lines, maybe even gas, maybe hydrogen. You know, a lot of things. And then you've got just your standard kind of concrete water tunnel, which you could use for like moving water into a city. I think there's some excellent opportunities here, and clearly there's some money to be made building utility tunnels. Great to see additional resource revenue sources being explored. The Boeing Co is seeing a lot of interest in utility tunnels. That's what Elon Musk said, and I am not surprised, because fibre optic cables are just popping up all over the world now, and it's clear that the old sort of broadband internet is not good enough. Plus you've got all the other utilities. So the opportunities there are almost endless. Water tunnels. As you know, if you watch this channel, I've worked in the water industry. Worked in the water industry for just over 3 years. I am very intrigued by this because there is definitely some use cases for this in terms of moving water from where there is very high amounts of water to where it is in scarce supply. And that includes California, which obviously has quite a lot of droughts. But if you go east from California, there are quite large volumes of water. So potentially you could have huge projects where you're moving water west from the actual Rockies and putting it into California. So again, that's brilliant. But I think another excellent use is actually capturing the water and storing it in these tunnels. Rather than moving it from point A to point B, you could use it for water storage. And it also would move the water from where you want it to where you need it. So water storage may also be a great use for tunneling technology. He talks about loops. He's talking about not only elevators, but these kind of spiral ramps. So they need quite a large diameter of around 18, 19 meters for that to work. But that would be a great way to get cars and autonomous vehicles into the system relatively quickly. Also ramps as well. If you've got the room, a ramp is absolutely perfect. It's probably the more cost-effective option than the actual spiral ramp. It takes up sort of, well, it costs less to build really. It's be fast, low-cost tunnels. That's what they're after. So we already know this, but he's kind of put a number on it now. So he plans for 10x to 20x more stations than in the typical subway system. So if we look at big subway systems across the world, London Underground 270, New York has a lot of stations, 472, Beijing 370. That is expanding rapidly. It'll be around 450 in about 2 or 3 years. Beijing is rapidly expanding its underground. And Tokyo 285. So it's around the 350 mark. So, you know, it's a lot. You're talking well over 3,000, maybe 6,000. So that is an incredible number of micro stations that are going to require construction. A lot of job sites. It's going to be a logistical nightmare to ensure that they all get built in good time, but it can be done. You can intersperse the stations throughout the city and not dump a ton of traffic in one location, which is absolutely perfect. So you can drop people, you know, within 150 meters of where they need to be, which is perfect. People don't need to worry about the last mile of their journey. It had this interesting sort of diagram here where you've got all the tunnels lined up. Look, you've got 5 levels here, but you could easily have a lot more than this, maybe 10 levels, maybe even 14 levels. Saying there's no practical limit to the number of tunnels. Cities are in 3D. Transportation should be as well, because we have all these high-rise buildings going up. So obviously we need to go down to quite a depth to ensure that we can move people around the city quickly. Elon Musk hints at an underground highway that allows you to transfer from one tunnel to another. We could maybe see long ramps linking several tunnels. It'd be interesting to see how he goes about doing this, linking up the different tunnels, because obviously you come down the elevator and you're in kind of a side tunnel. Now, would that side tunnel link to level 1 first? Or would there be an option to go from level 1, then maybe go straight to level 7? Who knows? Obviously, if they're having these long kind of steep ramps at, say, 30 degrees, you might want to do it at a different diameter so you can have cars pass each other. Who knows? I'd be interested to see a model of that. It is quite an interesting concept. So he's talking about this elevator that we've seen in some of the pictures recently. Elevators are prefabricated, self-contained steel structures. You drop it in, it's like a plug and play, then you use it. That is an awesome idea. I am big time in favour of prefabrication. Part of my dissertation was covering prefabricated structures, and it's the way to go. In every area, we should prefabricate more things. I had these interesting pictures of the elevator. You can see the alignment wheels there at the front. Here's the elevator coming up at O'Leary Station. Looks a decent size. It was reasonably fast, but I reckon they can get maybe another 50-60% out of that elevator once they've optimized the design. Elon Musk is mentioning, look, we're in favour of all public transportation schemes. We're in favour of every method of getting from point A to point B. We're not trying to say this is the only solution. We should try all options, and I totally agree with that. One of the key things to come out of the presentation was these alignment wheels. It's becoming quite clear now that these are one of the most critical aspects of this system. Now, there are a lot of intricate parts of this system, but the alignment wheels themselves are key for it to work effectively. So they are deployed from beneath the car, hidden inside a recess when retracted. Very interesting to see it working. I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. As for reliability, how do you ensure that works 99.999% of the time? It's going to be difficult, but I think the Boeing company should assign someone specifically to focus on the alignment wheels. Get an experienced engineer to focus on that specific problem. That way, when they produce the final product, it should be ultra reliable. So they fold out on some kind of swivel pin. I don't know if they're in, I think they're in two parts. So it's kind of like your arm. If you imagine there's two parts to your arm, if you think about your elbow, and it kind of folds out from underneath the car, and then it folds out kind of flat, so it goes against the actual the shelves in the tunnel. Uses what looks like a 9-inch hard rubber wheel, or some kind of half plastic, half rubber wheel, which looks fairly durable. Elon Musk, it's a small but very important element of the technology, and this is something that can be applied to any autonomous EV. Now that is an incredibly important thing that is mentioned there. What he's essentially saying is, we're happy for you to put that on your, all the manufacturers in the USA, Europe, Japan, China. You can put that on a vehicle and you can prove that, it's reliable. You can come and use our system for the price, which is exactly why I predicted this system would become a toll road. And obviously that's the way it's going. So that prediction that I made most recently has come true. My kind of prediction on this is, do Tesla and the Boeing Co plan to sell these? Will you be able to buy them and retrofit them to your car? Or will you have to buy a new car with them pre-fitted? I think they cost at least $1,200 for a pair. Now, maybe the Boeing company or Tesla might, do them for a very small gross margin of around 10%, so they can get people using the system and then collect that money. So by selling these, they're actually going to earn, thousands of dollars more, because people are going to use the system. And then he said, this is not a walled garden. Again, let's get other people using the system. We can make some good money. Here they are. Here they are. So as you can see, look at that. Woo! Ha ha! Look at that. Yeah, so they fold up, and then I've not got the slide on here now, but they kind of fold up underneath the body of the vehicle and you can't see them. so they're not interfering with the aerodynamics of the vehicle. So he mentioned these again. It's kind of a duplicate slide. And then he was mentioning a few problems like induced demand. So if the system becomes quite popular, more and more people will use it up to the point when it just kind of collapses. But Elon thinks they can just keep building tunnels and tunnels and building more TBMs. And at some point, once they've built, you know, thousands of miles, they will actually exceed the amount of supply of people that could use the system. Thus, they will be able to ensure that your commuting times are the same every day, because they'll have so many tunnels, it won't really matter. Talking about congestion at entry points, but that will be dealt with by having lots of stations. Running into utilities, I've mentioned this on the channel before. You can use a CAT scan or cable avoidance tool and a vacuum excavator. Once you use your own guys using these kind of equipment, you can avoid utilities, you know, 99.9999% of the time. You should be able to identify them pretty much every time. Disruptions on the surface. There won't be any earthquakes. Obviously, being in a tunnel is the safest place you can be when there is an earthquake. He says, Elon Musk says, look, they've got to be cheap, they've got to be fast. It's only possible if tunneling is exponentially faster and cheaper, which, again, is the whole point of the Boeing company. He's talking about you can interleave these stations throughout any city. Elon makes a very good point. These stations could be in every suburb, in every shopping mall, in downtown, you know, beneath buildings, under shopping malls, under supermarkets, under skyscrapers. They could be anywhere as long as you build them in Elon Musk. And then one day it will connect to the Hyperloop. But that's for another time. A little tease by Elon Musk there. Which is, I was kind of like, when that slide came up, I was like, oh wow, we're going to hear a lot about the Hyperloop. And then he just sort of like said, that's it. It was a bit of a shock. I know for a fact that Blake from In the Hyperloop was very excited when he heard that. Know for a fact. And I bet you he was, because that is a huge thing. If the Boeing company decides that it wants to start building its own Hyperloop system, that changes the game. All the other players in that industry will panic, because if Elon Musk is leading the team, wow, they are going to be able to build that system 10 times faster than anyone else. We also saw the snail habitat, which is basically just like a fish tank for snails. I wasn't very impressed. I was kind of expecting something huge, some kind of huge tank full of many snails, but no. We got to see the watchtower, which is pretty cool. Outside the watchtower was a knight. The knight was giving loads of people abuse. It was quite funny. If you go on YouTube, you can find like loads of people being abused by this knight. It is hilarious to watch. Then the two knights had a full-on fight. I'm not talking about like a play fight. They were actually striking each other with the shields and the swords, and it was epic. Absolutely loved it. That was great to watch. Here's the snail habitat. There's the Hyperloop. And yeah, guys, that is basically the recap of the event. I appreciate this has been a long episode today, but there's so much to talk about. We're going to go into depth about a few of those things in the new year. But again, if you've not done so, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Appreciate all your support, guys. What a brilliant time to be alive when all this stuff is happening. It's a great time. Great time to be alive. So much news. I am super excited. Right, thanks for watching, guys. And remember, don't be boring. And I'll see you soon, hopefully. Please tune in next time. Okay, goodbye.